In the country of Zubaria, women were bound by silence. But one woman, Adaeze, dared to dream. They told her, "A woman can never rule." Yet she stood tall and whispered to destiny, "Watch me." Her courage shook a nation. Her voice became a movement. But when she rose against power, power fought back. The world woke up to one headline: "The woman who dared to be president has been shot. Can she survive the attack of her enemies?" Watch She Dared to Be President now to find out. Don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe to witness the story of the woman who dared to be president.
The morning sun rose over Zubaria, soft and golden, but beneath the peaceful surface there were people bound by an invisible chain. For centuries, tradition had dictated the roles of its people. Women stayed home, cared for the family, and obeyed their husbands. Education was a luxury reserved for men. The unwritten law was clear. A woman's place is in the kitchen, her voice is silence, and her crown is the man she serves. But Adaeze was different. With her radiant smile and dark glowing skin, she was a beauty, yet it was her sharp intellect that truly set her apart. Growing up in a modest home with her father, Sergeant Victor, retired, a man of discipline and honor, Adaeze was raised differently. She asked questions no one dared ask, challenging the status quo. "Papa, why do men lead and women follow?" she would ask. Her curiosity unrelenting. Her father's responses were often laced with sighs and warnings. But Adaeze wouldn't be silenced. Who decided it should be that way? She pressed on. Her mother would caution her, "Enough, Adaeze, before someone hears you." But Adaeze's spirit remained unbroken. She was born with fire in her chest, a flame that fear couldn't quench. In Zubaria, girls were trained early for one purpose: to marry. Formal education was for the boys. The girls were sent to learn tailoring, cooking, and etiquette, the arts of obedience. At 16, while her mates were sewing wrappers and dreaming of marriage, Adaeze sneaked into the old village reading room every afternoon. There she would steal moments with torn newspaper and political journals left behind by travelers. She became obsessed with the faces she saw. Women in fine suits giving speeches, leading nations, changing lives. She wanted that life. She wanted power, not for greed, but for change. As she devoured the pages, her heart racing with excitement, she began to scribble notes in the margins, imagining herself in their shoes. Her closest friend Oge would often laugh. "President Adaeze," she would tease. "You want to rule men? You're funny, my friend." Adeze's eye would flash with determination. "I'm serious, Oge," she said. "One day I will change this place and become the first female president. I'll make them see that women too can rule." Oge would chuckle, shaking her head. "Then I will be your cook when that day comes." But deep down, even Oge thought Adeze's dream was dangerous. She glanced around nervously, ensuring no one was listening. "Adaeze, be careful. You know what happens to women who speak out." Adeze's jaw dropped. "I know what happens to women who don't. Fear is the only thing holding us captive, Oge." The fire in her eyes made Oge shiver. One evening after dinner, Adeze faced her parents. "I want to go to school," she said quietly. Her mother froze. Her father looked up slowly, his spoon mid-air. "What did you say?" "I want to go to school," she repeated, louder this time. "Not to learn tailoring or cooking. I want to learn politics and law. I want to understand how this country works." Her father's face hardened. "You know that's impossible. Girls don't go to school beyond elementary. You will marry next year." Adeze stood her ground. "Who made that rule, Papa? Who said I can't further my education?" Her mother's eyes filled with fear. "Adeze, don't speak such things. People have been punished for less." "Then let them punish me," Adeze shouted, slamming her hand on the table. "If no woman fights this, we will all remain slaves." The house went silent. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. Her father's voice broke the silence, deep and calm. "You are your father's daughter indeed. You have my stubbornness and my cause." He stood, his shadow stretching across the floor. "Fine, if you want to learn, learn, but don't drag my name into it. You will walk your path alone." Adeze worked as a cleaner in a local newspaper office. Every evening after work, she would sit quietly and read the headlines she swept from the floor. Eventually, she met an editor, a kind older man who noticed her curiosity. He gave her old books about government and democracy. At 17, she took the national exam in secret, disguised as a boy. She passed. Her father, true to his word, said nothing, but she noticed the quiet pride in his eyes. Through sheer determination and scholarship from an NGO, Adeze left for a neighboring country to study political science and law. There her world exploded open. For the first time, she met women who led, taught, debated, and governed. She realized how far behind her homeland was. She swore she would return, not as a student, but as a catalyst for change. 7 years later, Adeze returned to Zubaria, armed with a degree and a fire in her belly. She had graduated at the top of her class and bravely worked for a political party to gain insight into the system. Her ultimate goal was to spark a revolution in her country. As Adeze set foot in Zubaria, she was met with the familiar suffocating grip of tradition. The same men occupied the same positions of power, and the same laws bound the same women. But Adeze was different. She had tasted freedom, and she refused to unsee it. The memories of strong women she had met, the lectures she had attended, and the debate she had won fueled her determination. With a focus, Adeze began to lay the groundwork for her campaign. She started gathering like-minded individuals, secretly meeting women and telling them they can be more than just a wife. The whispers of change began to spread, and the once silent voices were slowly finding their strength. Her words spread like wildfire. Some called her a prophetess, others called her a troublemaker. Oge, now working as a secretary for a male political leader, warned her, Adeze, stop this before they will stop you. You don't know these people. Adeze smiled faintly. Okay, the day we stop speaking, we start dying. When the next election season arrived, Adeze shocked the nation. She announced her candidacy for president. The citizens of Zubaria laughed. How can a woman rule? Is she mad? Who will vote for her? Even the ruling party mocked her campaign posters. But the laughter faded as crowds began gathering around her speeches. Women came in thousands, barefoot, hungry, determined. They didn't understand politics, but they understood her heart. Her father watched her on television, tears glistening in his eyes. That's my girl, he whispered. Adeze started gaining international recognition. Her name was all over the internet. People all over the world started donating for her campaign. Her face was all over the country. Men started talking about how daring she was. Children started writing her name on the wall. As her popularity grew, the ruling party grew desperate. They could not allow her to continue. They turned to Oge, Adeze's friend, with a tempting offer, money and political protection, if she helped assassinate Adeze. Torn between fear and greed, Oge accepted. On the night of Adeze's biggest rally, Oge called her, her voice laced with deceit. Adeze, the location has changed. They moved it to a new field near the old warehouse. The crowd is waiting for you there. Adeze didn't suspect a thing. Unknown to her, Oge has orchestrated her death with 2 ruthless assassins. Adeze gathered her notes, her campaign badge, and her courage, and drove to the new location Oge had sent her. But when she arrived, the place was shrouded in darkness. No lights, no people, only an eerie silence and a big van blocking the main road. She stepped out of her car slowly, her heart racing with unease. Oge, she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. Then out of the shadows, 2 masked men emerged. Before she could run, one of them sneered, You could have stayed in the kitchen, Madam President. A sack was thrown over her head and she was dragged away. She struggled and kicked, but her hands were bound behind her back. They took her to an abandoned unfinished building, the walls crumbling, the air thick with dust. Adeze demanded to know why they were doing this to her and who had sent them. The men laughed, their voices cold and menacing. Your friend Oge, one of them revealed, his tone dripping with malice. She's the one who sold you out. Adeze's word came crashing down. She couldn't believe Oge would betray her so ruthlessly. Before she could process the shock, one of the assassins fired a bullet, and Adeze felt her world go dark. She fell to the ground, her campaign badge slipping from her hand. Her last thought was of Oge, her best friend, and the memories they had shared. The pain and shock were replaced by a numbness and then silence. The night was dark and heavy with fear. Adeze's breathing grew shallow as she drifted between life and death. She was losing consciousness. Luckily for her, a young, beautiful doctor happened to be nearby. She had heard the gunshots, and when the assassins left, she rushed in to save Adeze. The bullet had pierced through her chest, missing the vital points by inches. Without hesitation, the doctor carried her into an ambulance and sped to her private clinic. The next day, outside the nation was on fire. Breaking news flooded every television screen and radio broadcast. Breaking news: presidential candidate Adeze Chikadibia has been assassinated. Her opponents celebrated quietly. Her supporters mourned loudly. Citizens poured into the streets in anger. What had once been the joyful chant of Adeze for president was now replaced by sirens, screams, and chaos. The country of Zubaria was in shock. The people were devastated, but the ruling party rejoiced. For weeks, Adeze remained hidden, recovering in silence. She was receiving treatment secretly, cared for by Dr. Simi, the same young doctor who had saved her life and who shared her vision of a better nation. The opposing party thought they had won, but something unexpected began to happen. Adeze's death became a symbol. Women across the nation started gathering in secret places, lighting candles in her memory. They whispered her slogan, "If one woman dares, all women can rise." What started as a mourning slowly became a movement. In markets, women stopped bowing when men insulted them. In villages, little girls began calling themselves President Adaeze. On social media, the hashtag Adeze Lives trended for weeks. Not because people knew she was alive, but because her dream had survived. When Adeze finally opened her eyes, the room was silent. The air smelled of antiseptic mixed with the faint metallic scent of blood. Her body wrapped in bandages, which ached with every breath. She turned her head and saw a woman in white gown standing beside her, smiling softly. "Where am I?" Adeze whispered. The woman gasped and smiled wider. "You are awake. Thank God. You have been unconscious for 3 weeks." 3 weeks? "Yes," the woman said gently. "My name is Dr. Simi. I brought you here the night of the campaign rally. You were shot and I found you bleeding heavily." Adeze tried to recall what had happened. The assassin's voice, Oge's betrayal, the gunshots, then darkness. She clenched her fist weakly. "They think I'm dead?" Dr. Simi nodded. "Yes. The news announced your death 2 weeks ago. They even held a state burial for you, but I knew you weren't meant to die like that." Adeze took a deep, painful breath. "Then it's time to give them a miracle." The ruling party continued campaigning, proudly with Oge by their side. Everything seemed to be going their way until one night. A video appeared online. It was grainy, the lighting dim, but the figure was unmistakable. Adeze sitting in a small room, alive. Her face was pale, her eyes were tired, but fierce. "My people," she began, her voice steady. "They tried to silence me. They tried to bury me, but they did not know I was a seed. For years, our mothers were told the kitchen was their kingdom, that silence was their crown. But today, I say no more. I live not because I escaped death, but because our voice refused to die." Within hours, the video spread like wildfire. Women cried in secret. Men were divided. Some shocked, others angry. The government panicked. How could the dead woman return? The ruling party called the video fake. But then Adeze appeared on live television. The ghost had returned. Adeze re-emerged not as a victim but as a force of destiny. She announced her new movement, the Women's Democratic Party, a coalition of men and women who believed in equality, justice, and reform. Her first call was to Musa, a lawyer, supporter, and tech expert, the same man who had helped Dr. Simi rescue her that bloody night. Together, they built a secret team. Musa handled communications and technology. Dr. Simi managed logistics, health programs for rural women. Oge, meanwhile, had joined the ruling party publicly, campaigning against Adeze. Her betrayal was open and cruel, but Adeze never spoke ill of her. She stayed focused on one thing, the dream. They opened campaign offices in secret. Donations poured in from women's groups, students, and even international supporters. Journalists from around the world wanted to meet the woman who had come back from the dead. But the opposition wasn't finished. They framed her for treason, spread fake scandals, even sent police people to intimidate her. Each time she survived. Each time her voice grew louder. Election day came like a storm. The air was thick with fear and hope. Women marched to polling stations holding banners that read, "For Adeze, for our daughters, for our dreams." Some men mocked them, but others, moved by courage, quietly voted for her. When the result began to roll in, Adeze was leading. But then, the unthinkable happened. The electoral chairman announced that she had lost. The nation exploded. What no one knew was that Musa had recorded everything. The real results, the rigging, the bribes. Within hours, he leaked the footage online. The evidence was undeniable. Adeze had won by a landscape. The nation fell silent. Then it rolled. Protests broke out in every city. People demanded justice. Under immense global pressure, the Supreme Court was forced to act. By the power vested in this court, the Chief Justice declared, Adeze Chikadibia is hereby recognized as the duly elected President of the Republic of Zubaria. The crowd outside erupted in tears, laughter and chants of victory. That night, Adeze stood on the balcony dressed in white. She looked down at the sea of faces, women who had once been silent, men who had once doubted her. She raised her hand and spoke. This victory is not mine, it is ours. For every girl child told she cannot, I say yes, she can. For everyone locked in the kitchen, I say step out and lead. Because today, history did not only bow to courage, women reclaimed their crown. Under President Adeze's leadership, the impossible became possible. Women began enrolling in universities. Girls became engineers, doctors, lawyers, and pilots. Laws were passed to protect women's rights and education. Musa became her chief of staff. Dr. Simi remained her personal physician and closest friend. And Oge, the friend who betrayed her, watched everything from the shadows. The shame consumed her. The guilt grew heavier each day. She couldn't face the world or Adeze. In her final moment, she wrote a short note, trembling in tears. I thought I was burying her, but she was a seed, and I was the one who watered her with my betrayal. That night, Oge took poison. By morning, she was dead. Adeze never spoke ill of her. She simply said, even in her ending, she taught us something, that those who betray light will always be haunted by its glow. And whenever a little girl asked, can I be president too? Her mother would smile and reply, yes, my child, because once upon a time, a woman named Adeze dared to be one.